A thread by Soul War. President Trump's 2 terms will destroy a world the left built to abuse us. In many of my recent threads and videos, I've used the phrase abuse of citizenry often. This is because the left created a societally engineered structure that used us as its fuel or power source. For a century, there have been Marxists and elitists working from the shadows to finesse Americans into accepting positions that are not in our interests. It's about stealing our freedoms and liberty over a protracted period of time until we enter abject serfdom. Now, I need to be very clear here. Government is not your friend, your daddy, mommy, or steward in any real sense. Our first president said, government is not reason. Like a fire, keep it small, contained. Control it, or it will control you. The actual quote is, government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force. Like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. U.S. Attorney John Durham understands this implicitly. How do I know that? This is the official portrait. Does he look like your friend? He might be very friendly with his friends, not you. He might have to sock you away in a federal jail cell for years. Stay out of trouble. Government's #1 job is to protect its population. Everything else is tertiary. Federal education, that was a very bad idea. See, Berkeley. Federal authority is being pulled back, not advanced under President Trump, who's cutting destructive and stifling regulations like mad. If our founders had had an inkling what Americans would tolerate today, they'd be apoplectic. They went to war against the then most powerful military on earth and eventually defeated them. They did it over things you and I would consider trivial today. We have been programmed to tolerate it. Subtly, over decades, foreign money bought up so much influence through legal and illegal lobbying in D.C., many of our politicians simply didn't pursue our interests any longer. You recognize her? That's Dianne frickin' Feinstein. What Americans wanted or needed was addressed last, if at all. Abuse, our votes, and money wasted. On our campuses, an insidious campaign was launched to turn the youth against the founding and institutions that made America great. In our courts, activist judges legislated from the bench rulings that forced Americans to accept what the legislature couldn't pass into law. The worst malefactor of all, the mainstream media, inundated Americans on every media front with a barrage of mind poison designed to make you hate yourself, your country, and its history. Decades of news, movies, and TV written, produced, and funded to push you in a desired direction. Carter was supposed to prepare the American people for mediocrity. His malaise speech was carefully crafted by the left to gentle Americans off the top spot on the world stage so the usual suspects could get back to business as usual, unimpeded oppression of humanity. Come on, man. America's over. We rob banks. Anti-heroes everywhere as the carefully crafted moral rot took hold. It was a psyop from day one. You don't defend what reviles you, media, or what you never knew about to begin with, education. Americans responded accordingly in 1980. Reagan pulled America back from the brink and gave us 8 very good years. His successor took the torch of American excellence that Reagan had passed him and promptly extinguished it in the DC swamp. right back to American ambivalence and indifference as the wolves circled our home. Since 1946, the US government had exacerbated an already growing problem Americans were feeling but couldn't put their finger on. Something was terribly wrong, but you could never articulate it. Well, I can. In 1946, we had just won World War II and saved humanity from fascism. But our government had learned lessons both incredible and terrible. They had been forced to respond to German and Japanese propaganda and found some of their techniques effective. They began to mount operations designed to manipulate enemy populations with more and more success. After the defeat of Germany and Japan, certain US institutions began using those techniques on their own people. This made the minor abuses and corruption our government had always had and contended with far worse. It opened doors that never should have been allowed to open. The abuse of citizenry was being solidified and couched in language designed to take advantage of Americans' good-heartedness, tolerance, and sense of fair play. It became so pervasive, it even took its toll on those embedded in the heart of vile agendas. The stealth Marxists managed to gain control of the DNC in the late 60s. Everything you're seeing now on America's streets is because of their elitist structure that was turning you into second-class citizens in your own country. They chose race over class to effect revolution. Okay, some pics don't appear to be loading, but I'm just going to pass on. Now, the revolution is here, launched too early, because President Trump is forcing their hand. Trump knows far better than I what a vile structure the left built, and he's dismantling it at light speed. Look at the insanity on full display right now in places like Seattle and Portland. Hyper-violent insaniacs enabled by the left to run amok. Now imagine those people in 4 years of a Hillary presidency where ISIS wasn't defeated, the courts are all against you, and the mainstream media isn't broken. Hillary would be at war with how many nations right now? Then a pandemic, then the Marxist revolution, say around 2024, where your white silence is violence. Trump is literally destroying their world, a world that ran on their abuse of us. That's why he's determined to wreck them. The changes he's making are so deep-rooted and complete, the left will be unable to make a political dent for decades to come. The DNC convention was exactly what I expected. They are flailing about in confusion as President Trump builds momentum. Their world wasn't real. Yet, they were using their own control of the mainstream media, the courts, and education to force us to live in it. Have you listened to the psychobabble of the loons rioting in Portland? I mean, really listened to them? They are living in that world Trump's destroying. Oh, you bet they're frantic. President Trump moved in the left's orbit for decades. He knows what they are and what they had in store for America. Well, he resolved to stop them, and he's doing it effectively. They are trying desperately to stop him, but they're doing it ineffectively. Portland and Seattle are a distraction. President Trump is fixing America and thereby the world under the radar as his opposition flounders and fails. He's not going to be our daddy. He's going to get out of our way to let us live our lives as a people truly free. The incorrigible and demonic are going away for decades. The monetary assets and power the left wielded to build their abusive world is coming to nothing. Cartels, oligarchs, and billionaires are losing their capacity to push us as they are exposed for all to see. No one is gonna miss them. Trump prepared the battle space carefully in advance. Asset forfeiture. Bye-bye, ill-gotten gains. First Step Act. We got a prison cell for you, Operation Legend. We know who you are. As the left now chases the United States Postal Service hoax, demanding we believe them, Trump's not demanding anything. He's pursuing the interests every American who voted for him wants. I can't wait to vote for him again on November 3rd, as the mainstream media assure me in their latest polls that slow Joe Biden's got this sewn up. Someone does. President Trump is not here to abuse us. He's here to open doors, wonderful doors. We just have to stare into the hideous face of the unmasked left first to teach America once and for all who and what almost destroyed our beloved country beyond repair. Then we rocket to the stars to signal our victory in the soul war. To support Brent Cates, you can donate any amount here, paypal.me/Brent Cates. Thank you for listening, and remember, Planet Fitness likes to abuse the civil rights of the disabled.